Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the webinar series Apprenticeship Dialogue to understand the role and the efficacy of apprenticeships in creating talent. As per the National Occupation Standard, 90% of the jobs in the market need skills and a bit of knowledge. But on the contrary, about 90% of the people graduating out of schools have knowledge but no skills. And hopefully the new education policy will address this issue in times to come. As per a recent survey conducted, it suggests that about 54% of the managers are concerned about the productivity of their workforce. About 50% of them consider that lack of skill is a major challenge in hiring. 45% of the employees view that soaring wages and compensation is one of the topmost challenges for them. 40% of the employees fear losing talent to competition, and about 10% of the employees are concerned about the high attrition rate. Can apprenticeship be the solution to overcome these challenges? We will try to get these answers today. I would say answers to these burning questions today through this session. We have with us Mr. K.S. Boone, who is the Head of HR and Business Excellence at RDC Concrete India Private Limited. Mr. Mukund Madhav, who is the Head of Talent Acquisition at Bajaj Auto Limited. And Mr. Sukhpreet Singh, Head of HR and Talent at Lenskart.com. Welcome to all of you and a very warm good evening to all three of you.
Thanks, Amit. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I must say that, again, thank you for taking out time from your busy schedule and joining us and sharing your experience and thoughts on the apprenticeship and specifically how it has made an impact as part of your hiring strategy. So as I was mentioning, in my setting the context stuff that as per a recent survey, about 50% of the employees have expressed that finding the skills is the most challenging aspect of hiring. And post-COVID, this has actually further got amplified. What has been your experience, or I would say, what are your challenges in hiring? Maybe any one of you could start and share your experience on that.
Okay, Sumit, if you permit, I'll take on this first.
Sure, sir.
So, because mine is a reverse experience. A reverse experience means I do not have any shortage of talent. In fact, I have excess talent today. The reason for that is that the planning has been going on as per my own expansion plan. We are an expanding company. In fact, we are growing about 37% CAGR every year. So we've been depending totally on apprentices. We have 3 levels of apprentices, which I'll probably come across later. So in our case, not only I have a sufficient number of apprentices who are almost ready to take on the jobs and roles, I have another line which is already recruited, selected and waiting in the colleges and the diploma engineering colleges or whatever, from wherever we hire. So I had to do the reverse, that I have enough talent, so I'm holding on, I'm coming back. Right now I'm back at 90%, but some of the expansion plans are held. But I have surplus talent today at all levels because.
But it's a fantastic situation to be in.
At all levels, because I wanted to give some growth to some people so that they move up and the campuses guys take over from them. This is how the whole system has been rolling over in our case. About 80%, I don't hire more than 20%. 80% comes from within only. So it is talent surplus. So what I have done is I have kept the new trainees on hold. I told them even they are going on through the exam, they are getting late. I have been inducting them in phases. Earlier, I used to induct them in one lot. As I need them, they will come. As my need and my expansion keeps increasing, I am inducting my trainees who are currently called trainees. They will become my officers, executives, whatever we have it. They keep on filling those gaps. I think I'll be totally full by November or December, and December my campus will start joining. So what will happen is that I'll have to probably postpone my next campus, which I do every year. So I do not have any challenge.
I think that's a great situation.
I do not have any challenge at all. Because of these schemes, we have 3 layers of scheme: graduate engineer, diploma engineers, and we call them technician apprentices, which are basically worker type of category.
Fantastic. So I think one of the very rare, organization to be in a situation like this, and I'm sure it must be envious for a lot of HR people because finding talent is a major concern. Mukund, what has been your experience when you are hiring?
So, Sumit, in our experience here in our organization, we have been able to find people, but finding skillful talent is where there is certainly a gap. So, we do hire apprentices in diploma, graduate, TTA scheme as well. However, the biggest challenge that comes up, and the primary trades are mechanical, electrical, and the related ones. The biggest gap that comes is one, the type of college you're coming from, two, probably the type of city you're coming from, and three, again, from the type of family you're coming from. These are the three major differentials that we have seen in the kind of people we are getting. To be very honest, our so-called offer to joining rate would vary in this kind of apprenticeship hiring anywhere between 30 to 60%,
No,
which
but
is a
let's
huge
talk
gap.
about local general hiring. I mean,
Okay.
apprentice is one of the things that you're looking at, but what are the other challenges that you're facing, while you're hiring your regular people or regular, employees? I would suggest that.
So the biggest challenge is, of course, finding the skill, the right skill. The second challenge is, of course, finding people without egos. And honestly speaking, when you were talking about knowledge but no skill, what we look for is skill without ego, and that we get a lot in apprentices. The third most critical challenge we find is an overheated market when it comes to compensation, not about apprentices, but in general. It's a market where I think compensations have gone beyond what people might be deserving. And somewhere we are still attuned to the mechanism that you cannot reduce a compensation once you have started paying something. It might certainly change over a period of time. So skill, still the number one. Number two, people without ego. And number three, a heated compensation market. These are the three big challenges we have from a hiring perspective.
I see. So, Pete, what is your case? What are kind of challenges? Sorry.
Yeah. No. So I think I have taken the challenges from both the fellow panelists. I have both the challenges with me. So I do have a challenge where I have a talent force which I need to accommodate, because as Dr. K.S. Boone said, that there's a pre-planning going on. We are an aggressive organization. We have a huge plan of opening new stores. COVID gave us a setback in terms of slowing down our entire store opening agenda. But by that time, we've already gone out, already partnered, already made some decisions of the talent. At the same time, it's very critical for us as an organization is the quality piece. So one side we have surplus, the other side is the quality piece. So when I evaluate these two, the quality takes the upper hand in our scenario, which means today, if you ask me, whatever interviews or whatever people we are taking, we are rejecting 50% because they're not matching the kind of customer impact we are looking at. The kind of quality so skills is one part, and the quality piece, the behavioral piece is another part which we are looking for, which needs to be very robust, which drills down to one's value, belief, and the overall the value system of an individual to be aligned to the organization, so that it is easier for that individual to get tuned to the org DNA and start demonstrating. So I think for us,
so is it like apart from the skills, it's also the cultural fitment is where you find a problem?
Yes.
Getting a people.
We really put a...
Sumit, if you allow me, because this is a very crucial question which Sanpreet has brought out. If you allow me another 1 minute or 1.5
Sure,
minutes.
sir, please.
Cultural issue. And I want to tell you a story. I hope you don't mind. Right.
No.
Because this cultural fit issue will come only through a story, which is lying. In 2013, I had my head and sales and marketing was a graduate from NIT Surat. So he said, "You are not going to NIT Surat." I said, "This time I'll go, and you will come along with me." We went along. I had 45 minutes to 1 hour interaction with the crowd which was assembled there, and I told them what kind of people I'm looking at. While I was speaking, he was nudging at me to tone my aggressiveness or the bad things about the company you are telling, the kind of environment you are telling. When I had finished, he told me, "Dr. Boone, what have you done? Koi nahi aayega yahan par. Nobody will come to join you. The way you are telling that this is..." I said, I have told them that I am looking for uncut diamonds. They'll go through many cuts. they have to align with my work culture, with them, align my organization, then only they need to come, otherwise they need not come.
Yeah.
I said, I'll still get people from here. At the end of the day, we picked up 4. And he said, my God, this is the best way to get the right cultural fit. Because I think Mukul also brought out, both of us are taking the same thing. This is the biggest challenge. Mukul, he's also saying the same thing, that today's generation, there is an alignment problem. So how do you get that alignment problem? So in my case, what I do is for 2 months, they come and work. It's compulsory. We call it pre-work. We pay them just about 8,000, 10,000 just for their sustenance. 2 months is compulsory. Those 2 months are for you to reject me, not for me to reject you.
Let you.
You are selected. So this is, I think, cultural fit is a very, very key issue in apprentices. If you got over that, you got it. The next one is, of course, planning. Sorry, Sumit, you're taking extra time out.
No. I think that's a great to share your thoughts. I think it's great to hear all three of you, talking about the culture part of it. You're talking about the alignment part of it, and Mukund talking about getting skills without the ego. I think some great thoughts coming from all of you. But tell me then, what are the initiatives? Like you definitely, sir, spoken about the apprenticeship part of it. Mukund, what about you? How are you overcoming this hiring challenge? How are you finding people with skills and without the ego?
So for me, campus is becoming a huge database. I rarely look out to market. I always look out to campuses. And when I say campuses, I don't just refer to MBA or engineering colleges. I also refer to BCom colleges, BA colleges, BSc colleges, any diploma colleges whatsoever. So that's been one route. It takes care of multiple stuff. One, my compensation part is taken care of because I get people at a lower compensation, and I can spread out the compensation as well for next 2-3 years, which I may not be able to do in a lateral hiring kind of scenario. The second thing I do is whenever I go to a campus, I go exclusive. I don't get into any kind of fight with other companies saying on a day 5 companies are there, people will sign off. So I go to campuses exclusive. I choose campuses which allow us to go exclusive. The third specific aspect that we take care of, my internal pipeline building needs to take care of any future needs that might be arising. We have got a very clear-cut guideline that 30% of the vacant position fulfillment has to be internal, and at the same time, any vacancy coming up has to be compulsorily advertised for 15 days internally before it going outside for any position whatsoever. These steps as such bring down, one, my requirement of going outside, and two, even if I go outside, I go primarily to campuses. When it comes to the cultural fit, finding people without ego, I would rather tend to agree with what Dr. Bhoon was saying. We are a very blunt organization. We speak on the face of it. As a matter of fact, we go to campuses and tell people, if you know Hindi, you'll be posted in Kerala because you're a sales guy. If you do not know the broader aspects of how a geography-wise sales operates, it will be very difficult for you to survive. We know, again referring back to what Dr. Bhoon said, people may not prefer. For example, somebody always been in Delhi may never prefer to even come out of Delhi. They will prefer to be in NCR. Now, those are the challenges we want to cut upfront. If you're not interested in being mobile, if you're not interested in exploring geographies, if you're not interested in meeting people who are from a different language or belong to a different color than you, then so be it. Really, you're not fitting my job roles. So these are the steps we take to ensure that there is a cultural fitment as well.
There's a lot of the adaptation part of it and the adoption part of it, what you focus on when you're looking the right fitment in your company. But very interesting, you mentioned that you first look at more internal movements rather than looking outside, which gives a huge opportunity for people to grow within the organization and must be very motivating for them as well, right?
Yes, that's true. That's what we do when we create a complete pipeline. As a matter of fact, even my previous organization, and I should share it with you, and even in my current organization, the 2 top heads have all grown through the organization. And those examples always help, because whenever you go to hire, you start quoting those examples and then people feel motivated.
Great. So Preet, what has been your experience? Like, what are the initiatives that you've taken here?
So on the culture fitment, as I'll again say that we've been very cult in our approach when it comes to the addressing the employee base we are talking to, whether we go lateral or we go to campus or we go to talk to these apprenticeship or the apprentices available. One is we being very cult about the kind of organization we are. Second is the kind of effort we put in to do the culture integration with the help of all sorts of simulations we have created. So at Lenskart, just imagine a sales associate at a store is spending around 60 minutes to get that job. And he's going through various rounds of assessment. And nothing to say that how much sales you were doing at a particular retail store to what sales you will do at Lenskart. It's all about to understand that how he would be handling customers, how he would be managing change, how eager he is to learn, how he will handle or plan himself, or how he will be agile in the organization. At a sales associate level, we start building that way. So we get the alignment, because we say that Lenskart is a very customer obsessed and a very performance driven organization. So we start assessing it at the very start of it. Third, then the entire compensation model is so aggressive in its approach that it gives them the feeler, or it actually aligns them that if you sign up for this, then you are signing up for a very performance driven organization. That's an expectation. Fourth, internal dependencies, right? So we basically going to fill larger positions at the bottom, and my cusp positions like my store managers and area managers have a higher dependency of internal movement. I would have around I run at a run rate of around 40% my positions getting filled internally at a store manager level. It gives us two advantages. One, the person who has actually worked as a sales associate or at the bottom of the pyramid has actually seen that entire SOP transition. He's very thorough with the organization culture, the way of working and everything. It's about uplifting that individual to be a better first-time manager and being a people's manager, so to say. So it becomes much easier for us to give them a platform to perform and exceed. And it becomes a value chain for them, that how they from a frontline role, they move to the first line manager role, to an regional or an area manager role. And we have many success stories around it, which really works for us in terms of keeping the talent inside, the quality inside the organization, and not losing it outside.
Okay. So again, it's a great approach for the internal movement, as even Mukund also mentioned, and some of the stuff that you mentioned about that keeps them going and in the organization beats the compensation factor part of it, and what you just mentioned.
The one point I wanted to say is that what is very relevant these days, you being upfront as an organization. I think that is respected and appreciated by a frontline to a senior most person you're hiring in your team. I think being upfront, the kind of organization you are, is very important. I think that's
coming very strongly from all three of you saying the same thing, like being like as Dr. Boone also mentioned, that the kind of session that he does when he goes for a campus, or what even Mukund said about being up, maintaining a transparency, and same goes for you. So I think that's how the transparency in the communication, setting the expectations right at the beginning, really helps you to overcome the cultural, and I would say even the hiring challenges as well. Great. Okay, let's talk about now the apprenticeship part of it. And all of you did kind of mention, touch upon the apprenticeship aspect. Dr. Boone, you have been saying that you are in a very exceptional space where you have an excess of talent, and apprenticeship is the reason for it. Would you want to highlight how are you implementing apprenticeships, and what are kind of job roles? Please, I think we would like to hear from you.
Okay, thank you. That's a very, very good question for me, because I've been doing it for many, many years. Before that, I just wanted to highlight one very good point which Mukul brought out, which many of us forget. I think he said, I am not competing with anybody when I go to the campus. I think this is an excellent point. Some of the other, I do it, but I never noticed that I need to mention it. I picked it up from him today, that I'm not competing with anybody. Absolutely. If you are competing with others, I want first slot, third slot, I'm not bothered. I have a separate kind of a segment which I'll get it in the end, and you'll get it. There are plenty of segments. For example, I'm just giving, okay, we have 3 layers of apprenticeship programs. One, we call it the graduate engineer training program. We are not hiring MBAs per se, but some MBAs are put into the same GT program for sales and marketing. Few. Because in our case, the product is a bit technical. So it is sold like even in the case of auto, mostly the technicals only sell this. The engineers sell the trucks and all. Like in Ashok Leyland, I know all engineers used to sell. I'm sure in Bajaj Auto also many. So one is that layer. We call it graduate engineer training. They are taken under the Apprenticeship Act only. The second one is the diploma engineer trainees. The third layer is we call it technician apprentices, who are basically ITI or lower level of diploma. When I call it lower level of diploma, their marks are not good. They are not good in English communication. They will probably speak good, but we hire them basically for their passion, agility, and also cultural fit. My target, in fact, in the interviews, if somebody says I am the son of a farmer, most likely, unless I detect that he does not know farming, he gets selected unless I find something else. Because farming, then I'll ask him, okay, tell me, how do you sow paddy? If he's able to answer that question and everything else is fine, of course, there are others, we hire him. So this is how you get the attitudes. So these graduate engineer trainees, I am not pitching at in Ashok Leyland, we pitch at the IITs and NIT level. In ACC, we came down to NIT and lower level. In my current company, I do not think they will fit into my culture. So we do not go to NITs at all. We go to even the next lower level, and we have figured out which are the colleges, which are the catchment areas, and you keep on tinkering with this. I think Mukul brought up this point of this diversity. In ACC as well as in Ashok Leyland, we used to hire people from Tamil Nadu and we'll send them to Delhi to learn so that they get used to. It was very difficult. They used to go. They used to learn Hindi also. But in current company, I'm not able to do it because of the salary package and other things. So we are basically largely focusing on certain local places, but we also have some central hiring, like we'll hire people from, let's say, Bhubaneswar, or from sometimes even from Bihar, some places where they are ready to move all over India. So we hire from there also. There is a diversity, but there is a local factor as well. You keep on, when you are hiring these guys, this rigidity is one which should never be there. You will have to figure out, ultimately, I want to retain them. So all three streams are inducted in batches. They are inducted properly. We induct them for about 15 days in Bombay. Mind you, we bring them to Bombay, all of them, so that the company is all about. Then for 1 year, I have got 2 HR ladies who are monitoring the whole scheme for whole 1 year. Because unless you hold hands, they'll not stay. Some of them will have some problem here and there. Some manager will not be properly. I get such cases almost every week or whatever. So we get into it. Sometimes we find the trainee himself is that this thing we need to be coached and mentor him. So the bigger challenge is not only in recruiting first in a cultural fit. The second biggest challenge is that you must try and retain them at least 1 year. Once they are retained for 1 year, you will find those who are still there, some will leave. Firstly, we should be prepared for this attrition. It will happen because you are getting a guy who's fresh, he has got his own way of thinking and other things, some will go away. Even if I retain 70%, that's my current rate, approximately 70% after 1 year, we give them some retention bonus and other thing. Even then, my costs are much lower, my talent is managed much better. The biggest advantage is these guys have not seen any other corporate culture. They only know my culture. So they get used to this culture. If I hire 10 people from 10 different companies, they will have 10 things to say. Oh, in Bajaj Auto, they do it like this. In Lenskart.com, they do like this. Why don't we do like this? So he wants to adopt me that. I can't adopt his culture. This is my own culture. So these guys have seen only this culture. They grow up, as I said, 20% only I am hiring from outside. All promotions are bottom up. They are moving up. The graduate engineer trainees have become business heads in ACC. ACC I have left now, but the scheme is going on. A large number, in those days they used to say, oh, this will be run by GTs and DTs. Yeah, they're running it. They're there everywhere. Some are gone. Ashok Leyland.
Sure.
You find large.
So I think
point is made. I think this is I think I have probably exceeded my brief. This is how we do it.
No, fantastic. But could you just also throw light on what are the job roles that you hire these people for?
Yeah. Job roles you hire people for. Okay, yeah. This is another. We basically so far we've been hiring only technical role. I'll admit that. So my major problem has been in accounts, which I started recently. But the job roles are in technical means with the engineers, I'll call it. They have 3 job roles. And we don't tell them where you will go. We assess it and then figure out. Now this is sorry for bringing the Indian Army into it. When I was recruited by the Indian Army, went through the commission, they never told me I'll get electronics and mechanical engineer. I could get infantry, anything. Same system is followed in my case. We don't tell them, I'm sorry, you come in, we'll see where you figure it. So at the end of 6 months, we figure out which suits him and which suits me. So they go into sales, they go into operation. Then I have got you can call it a small technical, which we call it, we don't call it R&D because R&D is not very great. They are civil engineers who do these mixed designs and other things. They ensure my quality of product. Basically, they are product developers as well as product quality people. So we divide them basically into these three streams, depending on their own aptitude and my own requirement. Yeah.
Fantastic. What about you, Sukhpreet? I think yours is also a very rare industry to have an apprentice. So how do you term yourself? Are you part of the e-com or are you part of the retail, or it's a hybrid? Because I do see your retail outlets and we do have the app through which we can online, we can book the spectacle.
We are a hybrid organization today. Yeah? We do sell online. We do send people to your place to sell, and you can come to the store. So all the three.
It's a multi-channel.
Multi-channel. So you have omni-channel. We have something called as a home try-on business where people will be coming to your home and doing your eye testing and selling you a frame. We have an online channel where you can go to the app, you can go to the website, you can order. So all the three channels are available. Now, when it comes to this side of apprenticeship, I think till last year, Lenskart never had this. Now this year we are bringing this, but we are bringing it with a flavor. Because for us, the kind of business we are into, and I normally give this example, it's very different in a retail setup, the kind of retail we do. It's not like an apparel industry where somebody comes in and he says that I'm looking for a black color shirt, size 42, please guide me to the rack. Here, the person is coming and asking for a specs, something related to your eyes. He needs to be consultative enough. It's not about, let's say you wear specs, you land up to a store, you say, I'm looking for a pair of specs. It's about checking your number. It's about understanding what kind of frame work for you, what kind of a lens works for you. What kind of work culture you are in, whether you will be exposed to laptop and screens more or not, whether you work outside. So, you need blue cut, this kind of a cut or a focal cut. And I even myself don't know how many cuts are available, but you need to ask those kind of questions. Now, we are expecting that from a sales associate there. So it's a very different kind of a retail sales associate which works for us. He needs to be trained. He needs to have those qualities of asking questions. It's a bit consultative in that approach. Henceforth, it is very important for us is the continuity of that guy. It really matters to us the retention of that individual. Henceforth, the way we are using apprenticeship, it's more long-term for us. We are not getting that guy today for a role of a sales associate. We are getting that guy for a role of a store manager down the line. We really want him creating that. So our apprenticeship engagement is more around that he goes through a journey. He spends time. He understands the business well. He succeeds in what he's doing, and he's learning throughout the curve. And he actually comes out becoming more successful or a more supervisory role, so that there is a long-term, you can say, catchment for him. He looks after for something. He has some motivation attached, that it's not about that job I'm doing today. It's about what will happen with me down the line 3 years. Now it helps as an organization. It helps us two ways. One, we are getting the right person because the culture fitment and everything is absolutely there. The person is more for a long-term engagement because there's a mutual benefit attached to it. I'm getting a resource who will be more with us. I get retention. He has an opportunity with that retention to take up the senior level roles in the organization, which is being told today itself. So the goal is not the sales associate job. The goal is the role of a store manager. So what we are encouraging them to think and look for is that, not what we are giving them today. So I think
it's a long term, but a very well-defined structure.
Very well-defined structure.
Talent for your future leaders.
Correct. So we are using it in that fashion that we really want these. So what the kind of program we are working for our sales associates, we call it as a BBA retail program, where it is a two-way thing for them. One, they get the exposure to work as a sales guy. They understand the retail sales associate. They understand the practicality of it, how actually the operations work. Parallelly, they are getting educated with a legitimate degree, which will be offered to them down the line 3 years. So it works like tandem. there are mutual benefits and the common purposes in the game, which will help us retain them, enhance the quality, train them, and bring something good out of them. Sure. So I think for us, it is like this in both sales, and another part which we hire is an optometrist, which is a very technical.
Sorry, what?
Optometrist.
Okay.
The person who basically tests your eyes is an optometrist. It's a very rare skill. It's not a career of choice for many people in today's time. There are around 50, 60 good colleges, a batch of 4,000, 5,000 people get graduated every year, very niche skill. So how we can make, our focus is how to make that particular field a career of choice, not career by force, where we can actually give them an opportunity to choose that as a career and bring them into this optometry field, again in a similar fashion, build them throughout, they get their degrees, we build them, and end of the day, they get a secure job and a legitimate job. So we partner around those parts where we give them a lot more opportunity to study and to get trained from a professional optometry standpoint. I think that is why we are using it in a very different way, where we are actually fulfilling our current requirements and also the future requirements. So,
fantastic. So I think you have really set the precedence for apprenticeship in the industry that you are in, and even the eyewear or opticals kind of a thing. I think you really set the precedence, and which will encourage many organizations to take up apprenticeship. Mukund, coming to you, historically and traditionally, it's the manufacturing sector which has adopted apprenticeship. So would you want to share some of the best practices that your organization is doing to implement apprenticeships?
Sumit, I have a slightly different view. Unfortunately, moment we say apprentices, 90% of us go back to legal things like Apprenticeship Act and all. Yeah. And that's why I would rather talk about trainee as a word, which is what I guess was the origin when it originated in Germany from a guild kind of stuff. So I wouldn't like to get stuck to apprenticeship as a word, because somewhere then multiple other questions arise. Somewhere government also restricts people from hiring apprentices in some of the trades, which is an unfortunate thing, but so be it.
No, but isn't it that the optional trade had made it more flexible for the organization to go and hire in any trade and any job role?
Correct. But the mindset of the people is something like this. I also see a couple of questions coming where people are asking, what about in HR, finance and all? So the broader mindset is more about, if I am hiring an apprentices, it's more either in manufacturing, which is what 90% of the people will think, or maybe in sales, which is what another 60% of people will think. If you take a poll, maybe only 5% of people will say, okay, in HR also you can get an apprentice. And that's why I would like to walk away from apprentices and rather focus on the word trainees. We hire trainees in all job roles, whether in HR, finance, sales, manufacturing, or research and development. Yes, my target audience differs, my target colleges differ, but I have this pipeline in all different job roles available. How the pipeline works is, of course, it's all dependent on the manpower planning, what is the final requirement, and so on. But fundamentally, the entry population has to be 3 times of what is required 2 years later for me. That's the pipeline I create when it comes from a trainee perspective. And then I hope that I will end up with 33 to 40% of pipeline surviving after 2 years, so that my positions get fulfilled. How it is helping me? Number one, I don't have to pay partners to hire from outside. Number two, I already have an internal built-in pipeline, which I can actually start placing people, and then picking up from what Dr. Bhoon said or what Mr. Singh said. It's more about they have been in your organization, they understand how your organization works, and then you can actually be placing them into different job roles. Number three, since they have been hired early in their years, they are still ready to be molded. When you hire a trainee, your average age, if you hire a diploma trainee and so on and so forth, it's further down the line. But even if you hire an MBA trainee, the average age is below 21 years. You still have opportunity of molding that guy. So those are the advantages I get when I follow the trainee route. How How it helps the trainees also is, one, they get an opportunity of evaluating the organization. Number two, upfront in their life, they have struck a point where they have to admit a fact that I am a trainee. I am not into a retiring at 60 years of age job. Now, this mindset is very different. If I'm hiring a worker or a workman, by default, the mindset is it's going to be a retirement at 60 years job. Moment the mindset becomes that no, it's a trainee job, I need to perform, I need to grow in my life, the productivity is given for at least first 5 to 10 years, because then the person will be able to contribute more. The person is actually working harder and harder on the ground. So this mindset change also helps, not only from a perspective of what is the difference between an apprentice or a trainee, but even from a perspective of the person whom I'm hiring, the kind of mindset I'm putting him upfront. Accordingly, my compensation packages are also designed that provided you go ahead and complete 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, you will get extra XYZ amount. So that's the kind of interrelated differentiation I create between the different channels of hiring and the different job roles that I hire for. Last but not the least, it's a symbiotic relationship. From a trainee perspective, I can also provide more job roles. As I told you, if I would have hired lateral people, I would have only hired 1/3 the people. Here I have hired thrice the number. So finally, I've also given job opportunities to multiple people. Some may not like to take a job, that's their call. They may not be able to perform on the job, that's again their call. But fundamentally, as an organization, I have also given more and more jobs to more and more people, which I guess is also the need of the country today, going by where we are on the population front. So these are the job roles that I hire people in, what benefit I get in as an organization, what benefit trainees get as an organization, and of course, what kind of symbiosis we can exist within ourselves.
Great. I think great thought initiatives to do apprenticeship. So you mentioned that it's about the talent, the right people, what you're getting. You have a pipeline which gets created. The engagement is. But are there any other quantifiable benefits that you see through apprenticeships?
Yes, my any lateral hire becomes productive on the job about 90 to 95 days. My apprentices are productive to the job, depending on which layer I am talking about, within 15 days to 45 days. Now, that's a huge gap. I mean, from a positive gap perspective. Number two, the return on investment that I get on trainees is anywhere above 100. Whether it comes to my sales trainees or it comes to my, and I'm talking about very flat numbers, the amount that they sold divided by whatever they're getting as salary, including all the costs that the organization might incur on them. It's certainly above 100. I don't have it in any other laterally hired role, at least for 5 to 6 years of the hire having come in. Number three, when it comes to the kind of the way they are able to pick up on the job and the kind of productivity they are giving on the ground, it's not only measuring from a numbers perspective that they give you more than 100% of ROI, they're able to become productive between 15 to 45 days. What is more important is the kind of effort I am putting on a bulk of the population, which I can hire as a trainee, reduces further. So my own effort of, let's say, training, recruitment, and any kind of HR processes I might be doing goes down. Otherwise, I hire one person, I need to do an induction for the person. I hire 100 people. I am doing the same set of inductions, orientations, and whatever other processes. My own ROI is increasing. So these are the three very quantifiable benefits we have had in our organization.
Great. I think it's very great, things to mention here. So Preet, what about you? I mean, you've been doing apprenticeship for about a year now. So is it too early for me to ask you, or for you to see some visible outcomes or the ROI?
There are particular visible outcomes right now.
I will say that you do find within a span of 1 year time.
Yeah. So we are positive about that engagement in terms of, because we experimented having them in a part-time setup. We experimented having them as some or the other way to be at the stores. I think we have seen the right indication, I would say. And that is where from last year till this year, we have increased our horizon. We said that it needs a specific handhold, and we really need to invest into this kind of opportunity or a venue to make it strong. So for us, it is now where we are, it has become one of the sources for us, and we really banking on it. And again, as I said, that it will not help us get what we want today, but it will really help us where we want to be next year. So it's more long term for us.
So you do anticipate that you will get, and you are on the track to get that desired
correct
from the apprenticeship.
Yes, 100%.
What about Dr. Bhuvan? I mean, you've been invested into apprenticeship for a fairly long time. What has been what do you see and your organization have witnessed the outcome of or benefits of apprenticeship?
So firstly, I think this is not a short-term scheme at all. If you are going to get some visibility, very, I should say tangible visibility, even 1 year is not enough. I have gone through 2 experiments, I'll call it. In both experiments, you could convince the management only after 3 years based on figures, data. So what was the data earlier? So I'll not probably, I think since it's the other company, I'll not like to talk about, although I'm tracking. There, the large population in ACC Concrete today is actually campus. But numbers I don't have, so I'll not talk. Let me talk about my company. I started in 2016. There was no such scheme here. At that time, my cost per cubic meter, I measure cost per cubic meter. So currently I am about 35% is my campus. My total strength, 35% is populated by campus. This is one. From a 0, I have reached 35%. What is the benefit? My cubic meter cost used to be 310 rupees a cubic meter, productivity. My cubic meter cost today is 240. So we can calculate. Another interesting thing is, this is the one which the board like. My average CTC was 6.6 lakhs in 2016. My average CTC, despite increments, mind you, there are increment going on, older employees going on, it has come down to 4.53, last measured by me. So there is a clear advantage of having these campus schemes because they are definitely overall much, I should say, cost value for money, I'll call them, whatever. So this is a foregone conclusion. I can give you hundreds of other data. Plenty of data is there with me. My turnover, my cost, my turnover was 9% of my turnover earlier. It is down to now 6.3%. But the employee cost, people cost as a percentage has also come down.
Fantastic.
Like to like, when I compare, let's say I have a plant in charge. I have 2 types of plant in charges. One plant in charge is who is there either in the system or I have hired it from outside. And the one plant in charge who has grown within the organization. The salary of the one who has grown within the organization is about, I think, something like 65%, 35% lower. Because the other guys become costlier. Hiring a person from outside, if I have to hire the best guy, he demands the best salary in the market. He will want me that I should probably pay him much better, 20%, 30% increase over what he's getting. Here, the guy is getting promoted and I'm promoting very fast. He doesn't even expect, oh, sir, I can become plant in charge in 2 years, 3 years time. I said, yes, you can. Starts working over it. The other guy's got 7 years experience. This guy had only 3 years experience. But he's much more effective because he's my own culture. He knows how this company runs. He hasn't looked at any other thing. Maybe homegrown is a bad word because in the sense ultimately, what you call it, inbreeding. But this is not really that kind of an inbreeding where you're bringing flesh blood. Okay, only I think one more last point I want to tell is, this is the one which I was thinking of conveying through this one. When you are making products, you are making 5 products, 1 or 2 of them will fail, 3 probably successful. If you hire 100 trainees, they are all 100 different products. They are not the same. Some of these products are going to fail either way. Either he fails you or you are going to fail him. Don't be scared of it. But you are still 70% success. You are great. But each one is a different product. Each one is a human being. They have to be dealt with one-on-one. I have been the chief mentor in 3 companies. I was the chief mentor to trainees in Ashok Leyland. I was the chief mentor in ACC. I am HR head, business excellence, operations, everything, but I am still a chief mentor to my trainees. Anyone can write me a SMS directly and I'll reply him and look into it. What is the issue? I have time for him. I may not have time. It's the passion which the person who is involved, it may be the HR head, it may be somebody else, had talent and all. He has to have passion into this. If he has passion into this young mind, I come across the other day, my old professor from IIT Delhi, we came across after many years, 30, 40 years. Oh, Brigadier, he calls me Brigadier because that's what he knows. Oh, you still on? I said, yes. He said, you must come to IIT Delhi and tell these guys. These guys are unfocused. They don't know. They're only demand, ego, whatever. He was saying the same thing. You must tell them how to work and all. And I said, okay, Professor Deshmukh is his name. I said, okay, I'll come and all. So he's having problem in their mind. He's an older professor. He's probably, so he thinks these young guys are going, they probably don't know the real world and all. This world is like that. I accept this world. It is their world.
Dr. Boone, I think we're running out of time now. So I think there's a lot of experience that you would share.
Sure,
definitely another opportunity to do that. But what are your parting notes for your peers in the industry on apprenticeship? So quickly, if you could share your parting notes.
So my note is that I have been working with these trainees for 18 years. I don't think there is any better way of, I will call it, building talent pool. I think that's the word we have. Talent pipeline. People say that I am having a talent pipeline. The only way to build a talent pipeline is having freshers coming in and building up right up to your CEO. You should groom. I used to question in Ashokland also why the CEO is not one of the GTs. There are other reasons. That's a different thing. Talent pipeline, if you want to have a sustained, capable talent pipeline, there is only one way. Go to the campuses. Thank you.
Great. What about Mukund? What are your parting shots, or I would say recommendation to the industry peer on traineeship?
So, Sumit, we can buy fruits three ways. One, we go out to market, pick up from one of the supermarkets. The other is we buy a plant or a tree, plant it in my house and then pluck fruits from them. The third is buy a seed, plant it, see the plant grow, and then eat the fruit. Believe me, the third one tastes sweetest. Yeah, not all of them might germinate. You might have losses, but it will taste the sweetest.
I think it's a great analogy.
Yeah. So go ahead, hire trainees. I know there are apprehensions with respect to, is it only for cost saving? Is it only driving business? That is what is coming out in some of the queries. But believe me, you really don't care. If you are to eat the fruit, you don't compare it with the price that you get in a supermarket, right? You enjoy the fruit, and that is what is more important for you. The business values might come later.
Fantastic. Great words of wisdom, I must say that. What about you, Sukhpreet? What are your parting shots and recommendation to the industry peer on apprenticeship?
I think one should look at long time. I think how we can actually help them build careers so that we can eliminate that stigma that apprenticeship is only for organizations to make that percentile, or it is a kind of labor which is available at a cheaper cost. It's all about how you pick up a particular segment of the society, help them give the right skills, give them the right opportunity, and they succeed. So, and as Dr. Boone said, somebody will be succeeded, some will not be. But that's reality of life. It's a competitive world, end of the day.
Great. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your experience. I think it's a wonderful having a conversation with all of you, bringing in different perspectives to apprenticeship. I think let's have the questions now coming in, and we'll quickly take them. And one of the questions that came was that, is it possible to take apprenticeship in HR or a finance or as an accountant? And I see that, Mukund, you do it pretty much. And Dr. Boone, even you mentioned that you have been doing apprenticeship in different roles. So what's your take, if you had to briefly give an answer to that?
My HR is run by apprentices.
Great.
I have 7 people. Only one is a direct route. All other 5 are apprentices. They were taken in apprentices. They are now growing.
Okay. What about you, Mukund? Any words for that?
I would echo Dr. Boone's thoughts, Sumit. In my case, there are 2 streams. One which grows through apprentices per se into HR. Other is which grows through MBA trainee hires into HR. But today, 80% of my whole of HR team, except for CHRO and 3 other people, which includes me, is all homegrown.
Great. And of course, Sukhpreet, you also been doing in a non-technical thing. So you mentioned about the sales and the another technician part of it, but do you also take on the other functions like a HR or a finance or?
Not yet, to be very honest, not yet. But yes, as Mukund mentioned, the HR team, so to say, is lot to be done with homegrown. I myself is grown internally to the role. I was doing something else last year. I'm doing something else this year. Many of the HR partners we have been erstwhile recruiters in the organization. I've spent 4 years, 5 years doing that. Now they've taken up the next role. So that's how it has been for us at Lenskart.
A very interesting question comes in that all of you said that you are hiring apprentices. I mean, all of you did substantiate it. But one of the thing that comes in that, is it that because you are hiring apprentices for the sake of building talent, or it is also a substitute to cheap labor?
I think if you are going to hire it as a cheap labor, it will be a failure. There is a two aspects to it. One is your requirement, second is his requirement. Both have to be taken care of. And I just want to clarify, I am also using apprentice and trainee interchangeably. There is no difference in my mind. There is no difference in the two. That is a government definition of apprentices. I am not talking about that definition. I am talking about the international definition of apprentice, which is basically a person who's just come as a trainee. So when I say MBHR is also an apprentice, means he's a trainee. This is the same thing. But I don't think that we are hiring him for cheap labor. That I will say is an outcome of a HR strategy aligned to business strategy, not the intention of the whole model.
Sure. What about Mukund, you and Sukhpreet?
I echo that thought because it's about the mindset. It's not about the label that it is an apprentice. It's about the skill set the person brings to the table. End of the day, today, if I hire a normal sales associate or hire an apprentice, they go through the same yardstick. They go through the same interview, same assessment. Everything is same. Not even an iota of difference in that he will be a 3, I will hire. This guy I will hire at 2.75 score. No. So it's about the skill set they bring. The outcome is, how we are with this scheme, the outcome is that it helps business to be better planned on the manpower number. That's all. It's an outcome.
Sure. What about you, Mukund? Would you want to answer that?
I would rather ask a question. Will any one of us work without salary being paid? Answer will be no. At the same time, does it mean that we work only for salary? Again, the answer might be no. These are contradictory answers, but I think this more or less responds to the question that the audience would have put up.
So I think definitely there's a lot of substance to what you just said. That it's not just the compensation, but it's a lot more than compensation that everybody is looking for when they are, in their employment and as well as in the training as well, because apprenticeship happens to be a training. Very interesting question coming in is that the person says that if a candidate belongs to a very poor family and has completed education through distance learning and has skills which are very useful in the industry, in such case, is there any provision to give such candidate a chance to show his talent for organization and work as an intern? Can I answer this? That, and I'm sure that I can say on your behalf as well, that it's always what matters to the employers is the skills at the end of the day, irrespective of what kind of background that you come from. And I think Mukund did mention about something about the background as well. So irrespective of that, I think it's what really matters is not your background, but what you carry along with it. So if you carry the skills, irrespective of whatever caste, creed, or economical background that you come from, you are definitely in for a good career. Would you want to substantiate that quickly for me in case anyone of you has a different opinion on that?
I have heard people who sleep on the platform, on the railway platform. So I think that answers. It doesn't matter, as you rightly said.
True.
Even for a trainee, even forget to skills, even if he doesn't have skill, but he have the ability to acquire skills, or he has the potential, it doesn't matter from where he comes from, what religion he comes from. I'll answer this question a little more differently also. And we are an all India company. I do keep a track of diversity. I have Hindus, I have Sikhs, I have Christians, I have Muslims, roughly equal to the population of this country. Let me tell you, approximately, it can't be 100% yardstick. I have women engineer, but their number is still less because of some environmental issue. We have people from all regions of this country. We have people from South India, North India, East India, Bengali, Eastern, right from the Nagaland. I've got people from Nagaland, Shillong, everywhere. So diversity, I think, is diversity of all kinds. diversity of rich versus poor, diversity of south versus north, gender diversity, regional diversity, caste diversity, whatever you say. Diversity should, while you are hiring from campuses, I think this is a very good point which inadvertently came out. We must take care of diversity.
Sure.
Because that is what India is all about.
Sure. Mukund and Supreet, any question, answer to that?
No, again, same way, we've been hiring all sorts of people. There is nothing called as, or there is no yardstick, or there is no discussion of looking at from where the person is coming. It's all about the ability and the skill. There could be a skill which he brings in, or does that person have the ability to learn and acquire a new skill? That is what we are checking always. And that gives. I have people at the stores with some kind of a special disability, they are also working. And they are successful. I have a sales associate in one of my stores who cannot speak, but he's an excellent sales guy. He's been able to express. He's been able to express, understand, give the customer what he needs, and he's absolutely fine. So it's about your ability.
The skill and the will both matters for any employer to to hire. What about you, Mukund?
I'll just quote examples. I guess during COVID, we had people traveling from Kerala as well as Guwahati, 3 of them from Kerala and 2 of them from Guwahati. They took different means of transport, traveled to our Chakan plant, found a house for their own, adjusted in that house, and they are working today for last 3 months. Now, I don't want to quote anything beyond this, but this is what we need to keep in mind when we say what kind of people we are hiring, and is it different when it comes to, do I differentiate negatively for somebody who may be coming from a different background?
Great thoughts. I think there's a last question which we'll take and we'll wind up, is there any limit to take apprenticeship in a company? I would like to answer that as per the statute which is there, you can have about 15% of your total workforce can be put under the apprenticeship. So that's the limit which has been capped under the Apprentices Act. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your thoughts. I think it's a wonderful interaction I've had with all 3 of you. Very insightful, quite interesting things coming out of this conversation, which would be useful for many organizations across various sectors and industry to hire apprentices. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all us. Thank you.